Shalom Aleichem, the Sicha of Kedoshim Gimel. Fascinating. And if you go to the farbrengen, where the Rebbe originally shared the Sicha, it's like the whole farbrengen is a farbrengen, it's a farbrengen, and geschmack and different discussions. By now, this must be, 3, 4 in the morning. The Rebbe goes into this heavy nigla Sicha, and that's what he finishes the farbrengen with. That was pretty much the end of the farbrengen, the Avtzon, and the Rebbe finished off, etc. So yeah, that's what Purim is. Purim is they could have all the simcha, but then you have to come back and sit and learn. So the Rebbe spoke about in this farbrengen, like at the end, he spoke about kilayim, and this was in regards to chamisha asar ba'adar. As the Rebbe said, we're standing now between Yudalad and Tezvav, and we're continuing Sudas Purim into chamisha asar ba'adar. And Chamisha Asar Ba'adar used to do the communal things. And you go on kilayim. And then, based on that, the Rebbe went on to explain the reason for the Seder Halachis in the Sefer Hayat al Rambam. The Rebbe said, Lahar, to point out that in the Sifrei Achronim, in the books of Achronim, the Rambam's a Rishon, the Achronim for the last few hundred years, you find that how much they fetched, how much they tried to explain the reason for the Halachis in Sefer Hayat Chazaka. And they didn't come to a united front. And sometimes even the Rishonim try to understand, the Rishonim who explained the Rambam. Like Behilchas Kilayim, that the Radvaz was one of the first the commentaries of the Rambam, and he was a Rishon. So you see that sometimes even the Rishonim are talking in this. So we try to explain the reason of Halachos in Sefer Yad Rambam that puts kilayim before peya, which is opposite the Mishnah, and it's going to the Seder Aksuvim, the way it follows in the Psukim, and then they went to the Shaklatai, the whole discussion in the Divrei Hadadvaz. The Rebbe says, Lahar, to point out, even though the greatness of the Dadvaz, mitzvah Dadvaz kemenit farfidin, you can't go lost. In other words, Dadvaz knows what he's doing. He's one of the first Mefarshi Rambam, and he wrote Sfarim in Kabbalah, and his Sfarim are even brought in Maimonides Chassidus, and they're amongst the Sifrei Kabbalah that we trust and we rely on them because they go according to the final verdict of the Arizal. The Hilchos of the Kabbalah Arizal, Shalacha Kamoisei, Arizal Achai, Shalacha Kamoisei in Kabbalah. Whenever it comes to Kabbalah, the Halacha follows Arizal. So even though with all the covet of the Advas, when Limud Torah, everyone can come and say a Svara. And the Rebbe says after that, just if somebody wants to negate what I say, fine. I'm arguing with the Radvaz, or rather offering a different insight. And the Rebbe explained it based on what it already says, that what was already written, as the Rebbe says in the letters that I wrote that year, Echad Ba'adar, etc., in regarding to the explanation of the Mishnah that Echad Ba'adar mashmim al ashkalim v'alakilayim. What's Echad Adar Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the birth of Levana, when it's just a dot, but this dot includes the whole month. But in Rosh Chodesh it's still in potential, and by Chamisha Asar, when the moon's actually in full bloom, then it's actualized with Poil into reality. And the Rebbe says, as mentioned in previous Sichas, and it's actually brought into footnote 31 in our Sicha, look at the Sichas, the famous debate between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, if you go based potential or actualization. So over here you see that Rosh Chodesh is B'Koyach and Chamisha Asar is B'Poil. And so Echad Ba'adam Mashmin al Ashkalim B'ala Kilayim, even though Kilayim should go before Shkalim, because before you announce about Kilayim, which is about mixing up the natural order, you have to first accomplish this by Avodah Ruchnis. And that's by announcing Shkalim for Karbanis. To not mix from year to year the Karbanis. That's what Shkalim is, a shekel from this year to that year. It's the Rosh Hashanah L'Shkalim. And this explains the Divrei Rambam. In the end of Halachos Harachim V'Chachamim, he says, the Beis Din goes to check all the issues of communal things, so to make sure that everybody gives what they need to give. And following that, it says a person should not dedicate everything they have, because you don't want to mix between the money that you have that needs to go to stock, between the money that goes to stock and the money that you own. And then after negating, mixing beruchnius, then comes the continuation of kilayim, which is negating natural order. Now, sorry, I didn't finish this point earlier about Koyach and B'Poel. Rebbe continued and said, similar to Rosh Chodesh and Tesvav, so too like Rosh Hashanah to Sukkot. Rosh Hashanah is B'Kesar, B'Koyach. And L'Yom Chagenu, when does it get exposed? On Sukkot. And therefore, Rosh Hashanah, you're already wearing white because you know you'll win. But nevertheless, it's not Begili till Sukkot that you actually walk where you love and you say, Anana Tzachaya, we won. And so too, the Napechu, you may have put in, the Shchedesh was still Koyach. And when was it B'Poel? In Yudalad and Tezvav, as Rebbe said, because we know the middle of the month is half. So Yud Beis and Yudalad and Tezvav are all part of that half. Okay. And Rebbe finished off. And in continuation to this, we also have to negate the mistake that a person should not, a person thinks that they don't have to give tzedakah because they don't want to mix the part of the usher with the ani. And that's why there was a no. That's what comes Mat Nisanim, to know that you actually have to give it to him because it's actually his. Adarabah, the Rebbe says like this, this is another powerful insight. In Tehillim Samach Aleph, David HaMelech says to the Eibishter, Yeshev Olam Lifnei Elikim. And the Mefarshim explain, what does that mean? What does mean Yeshev Olam? Settle the world. Everyone poor, everyone rich. Eibishter, come on. So what does the Eibishter respond? Chesed ve'emes man yitziru. If that's the case, where's there going to be chesed? Who's going to create chesed? That's what the Medrash Tanchum explains the pasuk. In other words, Hashem created taka. There's two kinds. There's wealthy and there's poor. But nevertheless, the usher should not be all full of himself. And the ani should not feel low with himself. Why? Because the usher is not giving the ani that which he owns, but rather the Eibishter's. Hashem, Malva Hashem Chenendal. Hashem just gave it to you as a loan that you have to pass over to the other person. And more than that, like Chassidus explains, that literally the money of the poor person is kept by you as temporarily, and Hashem is checking to see how well you're supervising. And therefore, you have to make sure to give what you need to give. And don't worry that you're going to lack, because first of all, this money was always meant for somebody else, but also, your portion will always be what it needs to be, because this is not your portion. The Eibishter will take care of you. And with that, the Rebbe finished the Sicha, and the Rebbe then spoke about Avtzon, that because today the moon is full bloom, which compares to the Yidden, we should come to the incredible revelation of the Eibishter, etc., as the Rebbe finished the farbrengen, l'chaim, l'shalom.